Today's podcast is with one of Canada's brightest young stars in Matteo De Brienne. From the CPL all the way to Sweden and to the Canada's men's national team, Matteo will talk about his journey through professional football. You're not going to want to miss this.
Um, but yeah, I had the opportunity to just be a training player with Athletic Ottawa in their inaugural season because they were training at OSU. That's my club team back in Ottawa, and so I had the opportunity to train with the team. But there was a few visa issues with players who weren't able to come into the country because of COVID, and so it gave me an opportunity to sign with Athletic Ottawa, and so my journey really just started there where, I had the opportunity. I wasn't I didn't end up playing all the island games, but it was a great opportunity for myself to be surrounded by professionals for the first time in my career and really learn from guys around me. And unfortunately, like I said, I didn't end up playing, so that really rerouted a lot of my things. But I was capable of going to Carleton University, in which we hosted the national championship, and it ended up being an incredible group that I was a part of. We were an incredible team. I'd say probably the best in Canada for university sports. We did lose in the finals to the University of Montreal, but our group had such high quality players, academy players, and all that. But that really did set me up for the opportunity to go into the CPL draft, in which Valor FC signed me as the first ever U Sports player to sign a direct contract with the CPL. So that will always be an honor for myself. But you know, spending my 2 years in Winnipeg, I've met so many great people. And for me, I consider Winnipeg the place that gave me my opportunity. I don't really consider Athletic Ottawa. It was a stepping stone for myself, yes, but Valor really made me feel at home from the beginning. From moments I didn't play at the beginning of my first season to excelling a little bit to year two playing a whole different position, being in a different role and responsibility, but having so much trust from the people around me, from the fan base, and it really helped me, progress to where I am today.
Well, and that's just one thing too. Like that journey itself, again, is something that I really kind of want to dig a little bit more into because I think there's a lot there that should be talked about. And I kind of wanted to go a little bit further back again to your childhood. I mean, I was able to do a little bit of some research on you. I know that your family is a huge part of your life. I mean, yeah, it looks like you have a very tight unit there, which is something you always love to see. Now, when you're a youth player here, who got you into the game of soccer? Because I mean, was it a family influence or was it something that you just came up on your own?
I mean, my parents gave me the opportunity to try everything, and that's one thing I'm incredibly thankful for. In my mind growing up, I played hockey and soccer, but in my mind, I always thought I was a bit better at hockey. But my parents, on the other hand, they were like, there's just something about soccer that, they just saw something. And so when it came to making that decision, obviously it was always going to be my decision. But yeah, soccer just seemed like it was the one sport that I seemed to excelled in, and it looked like something that I could, grow with. Even though in hockey, being big has a bigger influence, but playing soccer it really doesn't. Being small has its advantages, being tall has its advantages. But growing up in such a competitive household, uh, I just had so much great support and people who pushed me to obviously improve myself and grow from such a young age.
I'd love to hear that as well. And I'm going to guess, because I also played hockey growing up as well. So I want to try and guess your position here. So I'm going to say winger. I think you played wing. Were you?
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah,
I kind of figured. Okay. So that is something that's really cool to, like, just to kind of hear, because again, you had that family support. You can really choose a sport, hockey or soccer. Again, kind of had the same type of route there. But when you were playing youth soccer, I know you said you had a whole position change when you came to Valor. Did you initially like play striker growing up, or was it more in the midfield? Like, where did you start playing?
so growing up in my youth, I was playing as a winger all the time. I always as a left winger. And so defending was never really a part of my game, like ever. I was always just, oh, okay, attack, 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 score, score, score. Um, Obviously, my first, well, like at Whitecaps, I ended up like first playing as a left back. Like my coach Robert Earnshaw, played in Europe, played at Cardiff City. big name coach, he converted me to a left back in a position where I can attack, but also defend and, use the energy that I have and use it to my best capabilities. And so that's where I really, learned to play a different role. It was a big shift for me because defending is just not something I really enjoyed, to be fair. Um, and so when I ended up going back to university, Kwesi, my coach, she ended up playing me as either a striker or a winger. So back to my natural position. And then signed for Valor. They used me as a striker or sometimes as a winger. But then year two, I had Daryl Fordyce as my once captain, now assistant coach. There, was some changes looking in Winnipeg where, Phil Dos Santos at the beginning in year two, he was like, oh, we're not sure with the depth we have. We don't really want to play you as a striker, this and that. So I wasn't sure what my future looked like at Valor, in which maybe I was going to have to go on loan somewhere. I was going to, leave Valor in year two. But Daryl, he remembered that I had played as a left back. And so at the time, there was only Jordan Haynes who we had signed as a left back. And Daryl, he's like, you know what? Let's try Matteo as a left back, and it ended up, working in the best possible way for myself, and I was able to achieve under 21 in a completely different role with the team.
And that's something that too that like, at least you had that experience, I guess, in that left back role or previously you said at the Whitecaps. Because again, I mean, you could obviously tell. I mean, I've watched you many times at the Versus Auto Stadium there, and you have obviously the attacking, ability, and you're able to hit, not only passes but great goals as well. And trust me, that I still don't know how you scored that great goal there against Forge. I don't know how you got up in there, basically for like a scissor kick slash bicycle kick there. I mean, what a moment for you. I mean, that's something that like, geez, that's gonna be in the CPL highlight reel for years to come. I think one thing that's always kind of funny about that though is, I mean, no matter how great that goal was, I still always remember that celebration. I mean, I remember you jumping on the board, it kind of not being able to be as sturdy as it was. And then you said that maybe it was the worst enemy on that whole play, but just what a goal from you, and just yeah, I never see anything like that, to be honest, especially in the CPL.
It was something special for sure. It was actually the first game that I had a family member come to and travel to Winnipeg. So my dad, it was his first game there. I had my girlfriend and her whole family. That was the first time they ever came to watch me play. So to be fair, it was the cherry on top of everything. Being able to one start the game against Forge, because Forge obviously they're known for being a strong team, but Valor's always done very good against Forge. And so very good motivation for us. Sean, the quality that he has, putting a ball on a platter for me, and it's almost like my body just took over in the moment, being able to score that caliber of goals. You envision them, but when it comes to life, it's something completely different. And yeah, like you said, the boards, it kind of ruined the celebration a little bit. I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to tumble down with the screen, but I'm glad I was able to bounce off of it. So
Hey, that's I mean, hey, at least you did the front flip and for that pre moment up to that, so it capped off a little bit of the celebration there.
yeah,
Um, and I kind of also want to talk about this too. Like, I mean, you go through the whole university experience there with Carleton Ravens, and then you go to Valor, you sign your first pro contract. I just was really interested to see like when you first made your debut for Valor. Can you just kind of take me through that all emotion? Because this must have been a huge day for you in general.
it was, a long time coming because when taking part in the island games specifically with Atletico Ottawa and all 7 games I sat on the bench for, I didn't make a debut. And so I was waiting from the year 2020 until 2022. Like that was a long period for myself to really feel like, okay, my moment has come. The first game we played was FC Edmonton. That was the first game of the season for us. Um, and I just remember like, okay, minute 80s come around. I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm still warming up." But I got the opportunity to go in on, my first professional game as well. And it was great. Besides the fact that we ended up tying the game from, being up 1-0. It was still, an experience that I'll, cherish forever. It was the first opportunity I got to wear a badge and represent, my family name on the back of my jersey. And so, it's such an honor to even think of.
Absolutely, and I mean that's just again the whole point of you working up to that professional debut, and I mean going up from your being in front of your house in your street, doing those the keepy ups, doing like the fancy skills and tricks. I mean all the way up to where you got. It's just something that must be such a proud moment for your family as well. And I believe, I guess one of the big things that I kind of want to highlight too is again when you first played with Valor and you went to go play in Ottawa in front of your family and friends there. That must have been a whole set of emotions as well. So, yeah, just must have been something that was really special that game too.
It was a full circle moment for sure. I have so many photos to correlate of myself going to watch the Ottawa Fury play at TD Place when I was younger, and just to be able to, step foot on the pitch, be in my hometown, family and friends who haven't been able to watch me play since I was probably 13 or 14 before I went to Vancouver. Have everybody under one roof to watch, me make my appearance at home. It's something special. Having grandparents who haven't been able to come out to things, come out just for one day, it was great. I had a blast. I ended up getting 30 minutes in that first game as well. We ended up winning it. It felt like, everything fell into place at the right moment. And it was just, great to see the support that I've had, throughout my whole career.
Oh, and then that's something I love to see as well, just because again, like I think the one thing I was really settled, like really kind of resonated with me watching you play in person and also just on the television here is your passion for the game. Like I can really speak of a player. That's why I think why the fans and the supporters here really connect with you is because you show that passion on for the badge and just on the pitch as well. Again, I want to talk about another clip that really impressed me when you were with Atletico Ottawa there, but just kind of and it was we kind of wanted to wrap up just a little bit the time there with Valor. I mean, I know recently there's been the news that Valor's no longer in operation, which again is it's a sad story there, but it has created
Yeah.
a lot of positive stories, and you're one of the shining examples of that. But can you just take me back a little bit to the time at Valor? Like, what are some of your your moments there, your reflection on it? Like, how did you find about your whole 2 years there?
Well, first and foremost, I got to be completely honest. In year one, if I didn't have a direct contract, I don't think I would have been there longer than a week and a half. My preseason, I was, not the Matteo De Brienne that came from Carlton. I don't know if it was the jitters, I don't know if I was nervous. I don't know what it was, but it just wasn't me. And I think by me having an actual contract guaranteeing myself to be there for the season, it did me a favor because I had the time to learn and to grow. And so there was many moments, I think, before the first 15 games of the season where, I was playing 10 minutes here. I was sitting on the bench here. I wasn't rostered for games. I was sitting with the trench. You know, there was many different things that came with it, but it was such a family that I was a part of. And I've never really had that being away from home and having that type of support where, I just had a group of people that whether or not I played or didn't, they were happy to see me. They wanted to see me succeed. They were there for me, in every moment. And I think that really motivated me even more to wanna improve myself and do it for the city and do it for, the trench. They're such a collective group that really, brought my spirit up. And I think with the 15 games that we are, what is it, the 13 games that we had left, when I started starting games at that point, it was something that really boosted myself and gave me a lot more confidence on the pitch and off the pitch because I just knew that I had the right people surrounding me.
And that's just, I think it really like I know you kind of mentioned stepping stone earlier, but again, I think it's also really kind of helped you mature as a player and just as a person kind of going through it. I mean, again, I mean, it must have been hard at that transition, right? I mean, you basically moved away from home to a whole new province, a whole new city. It's a little bit of a transition, right? So I feel like it was a really good opportunity for you to not only gain that confidence off the field, but on the field as well. And you could see that as you grew with your performances there, scoring absolute worldies like you did, which is like the one we just talked about here. But you play 2 seasons with Valor, very successful seasons. I mean, even winning one of the Young Player Awards, the best U21 Player of the Award, which is again a huge accomplishment there, and it really shows why you've been so successful with Valor there. But coming up to the end of the season, it's 2023. I know that Athletic Ottawa came to the CPL a little bit later before you signed it earlier, and then didn't have that initial trial with them or have an appearance. But your contract is up at the 2023 season and you're looking for options. I mean, was it the opportunity to go back home was really appealing, or take me through that journey and why you went back home to Athletic Ottawa?
Absolutely. It was probably the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my life, to be fair. There was a window of a week and a half in which I told my agent, okay, like let's let's see what comes in. Let's see what the options are. Ottawa, they wanted me right away, but in my head, I was very hesitant at first because I was more like, you know what, they've screwed me over before. I'm incredibly thankful, that I got my opportunity to go home, but it was just in the back of my mind of a what if. And obviously Valor, it was my home for 2 years. I even played for FC Manitoba as well. So, they held a very special place for myself, and making the decision to go home was something I've dreamed of, but it wasn't an easy decision. Um, but I tried to put it in my own head that, you know what, if I go home now, then at least I get to do it before the end of my career. And I think that is where I really thought I was making the right decision, and I think I did, to be fair. I would have loved to play another season in Winnipeg, but at the same time, I enjoy sometimes taking different challenges and different routes, and going home, playing in the nation's capital, playing at home, in front of family and friends. I believe it was the right decision for me, because obviously now I'm in Europe. I had an opportunity to play at home, and I can say I did that. You know, and so looking down the road at the end of my career, maybe I don't have to anymore because I got the opportunity to do it before. So
And that's the other thing too. Like, I mean, when you look at the Ottawa, like, just fan base in general, like you just saw in the CPL finals, like it's a absolute, just a huge fan base there. And sometimes it's really hard for away teams to go and play in that arena. And for you, I mean, going back home, it's again, it's that, it's just that career move for you. You get to play in front of your family and friends at home, right? And that's something that's was, I think, was a huge moment for you. Kind of was just said there too. And actually, in that last season, I mean, you just had an absolute great season there. I mean, you think it was over 26 appearances. And man, Forge, you have always great games against Forge. I don't know if it's just something about that team that gets like really brings the best out of you. But I remember this one play where a winger was driving down the wing. You track from all the way across the field, and you make this absolutely beautiful slide tackle to get the ball, and you're not afraid to get stuck in, and it clears an opportunity. And then not only that, you do that whole track back, you celebrate like you scored a goal. And it's like, it's one of those moments that you just sense that passion. And I'm a goalkeeper myself. So I'm like, you can really tell that he loves those challenges as well. And I was even thinking, you might like those more than scoring a goal, to be fair.
there's many different things. Like, an assist will even do the trick for me. Like I'm very excited for success in general. And I think that's where my mental shift really came from, where I still really hate defending, but I need to make it, something I enjoy, because if I, enjoy it, I'll be great at it. And I think that's one thing I've changed in my game, where, you know, making these, just making a tackle in general, helping out the team, making a block, whatever it might be. It's something that just amps me up so much, knowing that, I don't like defending, but I did something great defensively, and it really boosts myself. And I do remember in that clip as well, I was the left winger, and I had just taken a corner kick, I believe, as well, and then the whole transition, I ended up all the way back to defend. So it felt like a straight adrenaline rush right away, where I was so excited. And then obviously I looked up at the score; it was still 2-0. But just preventing it from even being 3-0, and that could be the whole shift of a game as well. So it's just a very cool moment for myself, and obviously, I had a great defensive group with me, so celebrating with the guys as well for it. It's great.
Well, hey, that's got to be a coach's dream as well. Not only a left winger track all the way back just to make that challenge. Again, I know it's 2-0 at the time, but hey, it could have been three. So at least he gives your team a chance, right?
Yeah,
Now, so you go through this whole season, Athletic Ottawa, have a great season there, and you're coming into your time there, and like you said, you're in Sweden now. I mean, that's a huge opportunity there, and you're coming into the end of the season there with Athletic Ottawa. What kind of prompted the move over to Sweden? Can you kind of take me through how that all came about?
absolutely. Well, for me, I was actually, supposed to go in June. So not even at the end of the year. I had in my contract a buyout clause, which allowed me to leave if a team outside of Canada or North America, paid me out, and they sent an offer to pay me out. And unfortunately, Atletico Ottawa didn't accept it due to the fact that we didn't have any left backs at the time because Tissot was injured. And for me, I was already playing at home. I was starting every game. Maybe it was, finish with good momentum and then go. I wasn't sure what it was, but I didn't even end up signing a pre-contract either. It was all talks the whole time, which was a very big gamble for myself because one injury could have done it for me where, there's no interest anymore. But obviously, I did everything I could for the team, and throughout the whole season, for the rest of the 13 games that we had left as well, I tried to make sure that I was being consistent, helping the team where I could, and obviously, winning a championship was the biggest thing. We had, I want to say, the dream team, and unfortunately, we came up short, losing to Forge away in the semifinals, but it really helped me grow. And from that point, when the season finished, nothing was still even confirmed with whether or not I was going to Sweden because I still had to wait for the club to approve of it because they had an option as well on my contract. But I really told Ottawa, I'm like, you know what? I really think this is the best thing for me. And I said, if you guys are really about developing young Canadians to the next level, you'll let me go. And I think, they had to be a man of their word on it. And I had the opportunity to obviously come to Sweden and live my dream of playing European football. So,
And I'm glad they did because you're doing so well over in Sweden right now. I want to talk more about that too, but I think that's something I just also kind of dive into there as well. I mean, you're like you said, you had last little bit of the season. Again, it must be like really hard to kind of play your game with that little bit of that worry going on, right? Like especially about being injured and those type of things like that. Like mentally as a player, that must be like always hard to play with. Like, can you just kind of talk about for maybe some youth players, just for any other players in general? Like, how did you kind of cope with that?
so I'm one who I speak a lot with my agent, and my dad's actually very close with my agent as well. So most of the time, anything that's really important, they'll tell me directly. But anything that might linger with me a bit and, have me thinking about stuff, I'll just tell my dad, and I won't know about it and I won't have to worry about it so that I could just focus on my game. But this was obviously a period where the offer came in. So I had to be made aware of it. And so now I was, all excited that a team from Europe was interested in me. And I was like, oh, I want to jump. I want to go right away. But I had to be patient with it. And I tried to genuinely just perform as good as I could to be like, you know what? Yeah, I can make this jump, if they let me go, like I'm ready for the opportunity. Um, it did play with my head a bit because I was trying to make sure, I stayed fit, stayed healthy. I did everything I could to take care of my body. Um, but, overall, I I always had that little feeling in the back of my mind, I just, to try to forget about it. But every time I stepped on the pitch, it's when I'm in a different universe for myself. And it's where, uh, you know, every problem I have outside, the pitch disappears. And I think that's where, I get my love for the game of soccer. It's just, in the moments like this.
It's your escape, right? On the field, that's your passion, that's your love, and then outside the pitch, that's for later on, and that's for the agents and for your dad, who's been a great sport there. So I think that's really good to hear and highlight because again, I hear it not only just in soccer, but any pro sports, right? Like again, not only are you just talking about moving to different clubs, you're also talking about moving to a whole different country, right? So that's a whole different thing. It's a dream that you obviously talked about you want to do. So man, that's really good to know because again, I think that's one that I don't think is talked about enough personally.
Mhm.
Now, okay, so you kind of talk about, yeah, you get that offer from Sweden, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to take this opportunity. We're going to go over there. So, again, obviously, I'm assuming there's a whole new language you got to learn. There's a whole new type of cultural aspects, living situation. How is that adaptation to go from Canada all the way across the pond to Scandinavia there?
I mean, if I'm being completely honest, it's not that bad. Like, even when I moved to Valor, living away from home is something I was used to from the age of, 14, 15. So for me, it was no adjustment. Honestly, I enjoyed new challenges and learning different things. Whereas coming to Sweden and come to find out that everybody learned English in elementary school. So everybody speaks English here, but they would rather not if they don't have to. But I've tried to do my part in also learning the language and being a part of, the culture and, the Swedish lifestyle. Um, I'd say there was a bit of a culture shock in terms of obviously getting sunlight for 4 hours a day for the first 4 months of the year and stuff like that. But overall, I'd say it's very similar to Canada. The people are very much the same. Um, you know, culture wise, in terms of what we have back home, they have it here as well. So I feel like I'm at home at the same time. Obviously, it's a 6 hour time zone back home for my family, but I wouldn't say that there's too much of a difference. So it felt like a very easy and quick adaptation to get myself going running.
Well, hey, that's something that it's good to hear because I mean I know that sometimes for some players, let's talk about Desiree Scott. He always said that sometimes she's a more of a homebody, so sometimes going to transition to another teams and stuff like that was a little harder for her. But I'm glad to hear that for you at least the where your team is and just Sweden in general is very like similar to Canada, so it was a lot easier for that adaptation there. Now I do have to ask, just for like this curiosity's sake of it, what's been the hardest part about learning the Swedish language there?
I want to say the pronunciation and the verb placement for words. The easiest way I would say it is, if you're an English person trying to learn French, it's the same way as an English person trying to learn Swedish. I'd say it's identical. And I'm lucky that, I grew up speaking French and went to a French school, because, I would say I have a better understanding of things when it comes to even learning Spanish or whatever it is. But here, it's the pronunciation of words where I feel like when I try to practice, I have to say the words very slow and pause, whereas they will go a whole sentence without taking a breath. So now I'm trying to understand the whole thing together. Um, but honestly, I've used Duolingo a little bit. I've learned some things here and there, but the football terminology is very simple. But now it's me trying to learn, the outside vocabulary, and being able to, have just normal conversations with people outside of, the workplace.
Absolutely, and I think that's again, at least they have that support there with the club, and I guess it helps also too that the players do speak English as well, so again, it can help you out when you need there. But I assume they appreciate you trying to learn the language in general, right? Like I think that's one big thing there too. But again, I know you said that, it was a little bit easier transition, but I'm really curious. You're going from the Canadian game, the Canadian Premier League game. Now you're going to European football. So can you talk about that transition? Was there any big like differences between the style of play on the pitch? Like how was that whole adaptation for you as well?
Yeah, the off the start, I came in very fit, so I felt like, oh, this was fitness wise, I was at a advantage. But technically, tactically, physically, it's a whole different game here. Every game in the first 15 minutes feels like you played 60, and when you get that second wind, oof, you're able to breathe, you're able to play. But getting to those first 15 minutes without looking at the clock every 10 seconds, trying to see how it is, it was difficult at the beginning. But I've really gained you know a new uh, practice to my game, where I've been able to adapt myself to that. Obviously, the physicality is huge here. In the CPL, any little thing is a yellow card. Here, you can go through somebody's knee and it might just be a foul or a play on. And so that was a big difference for me as well, because I'm such an aggressive player. I racked up a lot of cards in the CPL, but things that I did there and I do here is nothing. And so I feel like this is a perfect place for me to be, where I'm able to use my physicality to my advantage as well. But one of the bigger differences as well is the consistency of players. Where in the CPL, if you give the ball away to somebody, I'd say it's more of a 50-50 that something happens, where, if you give the ball away here, there might be 1-0 up right away. So it's one of those, the fine details, the consistency, and the work rate here is, it's top notch. So I really think I fit in very well with the style of the Swedish football.
Well, and you can obviously see that, especially just with how you're growing into your game. And I think that's also really good to know. Again, I read somewhere as well that your first several appearances for Sweden took a little bit of an adaptation there to get kind of caught up, like you're saying. And I think there was one moment you said that you had a kind of a one-on-one talk with your coach, just about like how were things you can improve, and that was you kind of cited that was like a big turnaround, just in how you're more getting comfortable with the game, and it's becoming a little bit more integrated with the whole Swedish style of play in general. Can you just talk about that and how your coaches that connection with your coach helped kind of turn the tides in terms of how your performances on the pitch were?
Absolutely. Well, even at the beginning of the season, I played every single friendly game that we had. I played between 80 to 90 minutes of every single game. And then come the Swedish Cup, didn't play the first two. And I was like, oh, now we have competition. I'm not playing. First two games of the season, I also sat on the bench. I was like, it's not, I kind of confused now. And then I got my opportunity to play, but then it was almost like you sit for two, you play for two, you sit for two, you play for two. And I was like, I'm here to play. I'm going to do everything in my power to play. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to sit, you know? And I'm fully aware of, if I don't have a great week and the other player in my position has a great week, he deserves to start fully, you know? That's just, how it makes the most sense for me. But it got to a point where I think because even we have so many international windows, and so there was a period in time where we had a month off and I didn't play the last two games before the break, and then I didn't play the first game after the break. I'm like, okay, now we're about 5.5 weeks without playing. So, I went to my coach. I sat down with him, and uh, because at the beginning he was telling me, "No, you're doing everything great. Just keep going." And I told him straight up, I'm like, Coach, I'm not Swedish. Like, I'm Canadian. I would love for you to just tell me exactly what you want me to do. Because if I keep wondering what, like, you know, I'm doing good, but I'm not playing, it's not really helping me. I'd rather know exactly what you need me to do. And that's when, we had a very serious conversation. He's like, you know what? You need to improve in this area, this area, this area. Shook his hand after. I said, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And from that point forward, I played the next 5 games in a row, all because the information that he gave me was things that actually made so much sense and things that I intook. And that's why I feel like I'm a player who can learn very fast. I just need to know exactly what you want, instead of me having to figure it out myself. And from that point, it gave me more confidence to speak to him, ask more questions. What do you want me to do in this situation? How should I see it? Is there two different options to what you want me to do here so that I can adapt to it? Um, and it just gave me more confidence on the pitch, where instead of me just getting the ball and punting it down the pitch and doing things, giving the ball away, I think I really calmed my game down. Where I was, if I can go forward, great. If I can't, okay, recycle the ball, move it around, keep the ball. And I think that's a big aspect to my game that I've really changed compared to, just a kick and run style and just being so aggressive and fast, where now I can really reserve myself and use my energy to the advantage when, we really need it. So that really helped me, to be fair.
And that's just honestly something that's like really kind of speaks to like that you're still developing a relationship with your coach, right? Like, I mean, that's something that's good that you took that initiative to go and talk to him, saying, "Hey, like, where do I need to improve?" Because again, probably one of those things where you earned a lot of probably of his respect there. Because now I'm assuming that anytime he has any advice for you, he's going to tell you right direct what you need to do, and then
Yeah.
it's obviously going to translate to on the pitch there. And I mean, it even accumulated, like even accumulated to your first league goal in the Swedish league. Can you just kind of talk to me through about that as well? Like, how can you just talk to me about your first goal in the league? That must have been such a huge moment for you.
The fact that that was also the first game that I had played after the conversation with my coach, that's really what set everything up for me, to be fair. Uh, we played against Degerfors. It was an away game. We stayed the night in the hotel, even though it's only 3 hours away. Normally, for games that are 3 hours or less, we'll drive same day because it's an easier trip to do than stay in a hotel. Um, but knowing I had my first start in I think over 5.5 weeks, and you know, I had the opportunity. We weren't playing a very good team. They're lower in the standings, but we do find that playing the weaker teams is a bit harder than playing the stronger teams. And so I knew coming into this that this was going to be a battle, but it was one of those days where it just felt like everything I touched turned to gold. And I've had some moments like that in the CPL where, scoring the bike against the Forge, and then, Atletico Ottawa, the game that I played against Valor, at Princess Auto, moments like that where it just felt like it was going to be one of those days that was great. And, scoring a header, running in, as a left back, and my own winger was the one who crossed the ball into me, just showing that I'm capable of, you know, doing the role that they ask of me and doing the extra if needed. It was an incredible feeling, and to open up my goal account in Sweden was also something very special.
Well, and that's something I'm gonna hopefully say that's not your last one. There's obviously gonna be many more, I assume there. I mean, that's again living the dream. You scoring your first goal in Europe and Sweden. I just love to see that. And also when I saw that header, I was like, like, there's so many different facets of your game. You can also do it with your feet. You can jump like 10 feet in the air, hit bicycle kicks, and also do it with his head, just like the GOAT himself, Leo Messi. I remember still that goal against Manchester United. That was something that was he just have so many different abilities, and just stuff in your locker. I just don't. When I think you can't do something, you just do it. I think again, I want to see more headers from you because definitely you got that. You got that in your locker for sure.
Hey, I've told my coach to put me in the box because I got it. But right now he's got me on the outside. But hey, if my moment comes, I'm gonna try to utilize it to the my max potential. So
I love that. I mean, you're still obviously going through the season there, and I mean, I guess since this time, I mean, we just coming up since the start of the year, you got that call from Jesse Marsch and the Canadian men's national team going to the training camp. Like, can you kind of take me for the whole experience? Did you get a phone call? Did you talk to Jesse himself? Like, how was that whole experience going with the Canadian national men's team?
so on the 23rd of what was it, December, I got a call from the general manager or a text message, sorry, saying, "Hi, like we'd like to invite you to the national team camp in LA." Um, and at first I thought I was just getting pranked. Like I was like, "Oh, you mean like so weird to get a text from?" But after that, it was the longest 4 hours of my life because they confirmed it and everything like that. And I was out, I was training. And so when I got that message, I was like, oh, now I have to wait for everybody to get home before I tell them. Um, but it was great. I got contacted from everybody from the GM to the coach to the doctors to the strength coaches, everybody, they reached out to congratulate me from the national team instantly. Um, but, obviously getting a text message from Jesse Marsch saying that I've, formally been invited was, I have the screenshot and everything like that. It's such a crazy thing to even fathom that it happened. Uh, but having the opportunity to take part in this camp in LA, surrounded by guys that I watch on TV all the time, and being able to be in person, learn from them, and train alongside them was an incredible thing. And I honestly think I've learned so much in 10 days that I haven't really in the last 6 months. So I'm really excited to obviously take my game to the next level with a lot of the information I've learned.
Well, and again, that's a whole different experience there too. And I mean, just what a dream for you. I mean, not a lot of people can say they get to go and represent their country at any level, right? And I mean, yeah, you get to go with the players that you say, you always watched on TV, and then going to LA there and going to the camp. That's just something that, I'm just honestly I'm jealous of. I always wish I can get to that level, but honestly, though, Matteo, like congratulations, like it's a whole thing to get even to the where you are now in Sweden, but making it to the national team is something that is just, congratulations again. I always wanted to say that to you. It's such a huge achievement for you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And then, I mean, you go through that whole 10 days, and I mean, Canada has a friendly against Guatemala. And guess who gets
Yeah.
to put on the Canadian men's jersey, gets a substitute appearance from there. Walk me through that. I mean, you're on the sideline there with the kit, you walk onto the field. What's going through your head at that time?
So originally, I think it was supposed to be I don't know if it's called a level one friendly, which means that it counts towards the FIFA rankings. But then I believe they changed it to a level two because they wanted Marcelo Flores to come, and it would have meant that everybody could play. You could have unlimited subs. Um, but I guess that means that it wasn't an actual national team cap. But I still got to put on the jersey for my country, so I'll count it. But yeah, when coach told me to go warm up, I was just ecstatic. I was, warming up just with the jitters. I was super excited. And then when they told me, yeah, head over to the touchline minute 80, I was like, sounds great. And being able to just, I put on the jersey, just looking around, and I'm like, man, this is everything I've ever dreamed of. It felt like a full circle moment because obviously the jersey number I wore carries such a big number in my whole career. Growing up, playing from youth, from whatever my number was in hockey to soccer before I went to Whitecaps, it was number 12. And the day of the game, walking into the locker room and seeing that my jersey number was number 12 felt like it was a moment made for, my life. And putting it on, having, my family in attendance to watch me live out my dream was just such a unbelievable feeling. And it's forever gonna stick with me. I think about it every night, and it's just having the opportunity to represent my country and to see how far I've come is just it's incredible.
And I mean, that's again full circle moment, and I love that number 12. I mean, that's you can't write. Honestly, you can't write it. It's just
Yeah.
wow. That's it's amazing. I know that you had like a limited exposure there, obviously in the friendly against Guatemala, but what was it like? I'm really curious to know, like in international style play there, was there any major differences you saw compared to like the European side? Like what were kind of your thought, like the on field moments there?
So I will probably say that there was an advantage of me playing in Sweden because the aggressiveness is exactly there. And playing against Guatemala, Jesse was trying to really make sure, you bump the players before you get the ball. And I'd say that's a style that I've had to adapt to here, playing against Swedish guys who are very aggressive in how they play. Obviously, South American is completely different to what the Swedish football is, but I'd say it had its advantages for myself because I knew this information before, and so coming into the game knowing that I had to just be aggressive right away, I think it had its benefits for myself. So I wouldn't say it was similar at all.
Really wanted to hear that just because again, just really want to see the style differences there with the international and the club scene there. So it's also great to see. I mean, I'm sure we're going to see more appearances from you in the Canada team now, the Canadian shirt there. And I guess before we kind of talk about and just trying to wrap that up, was there? I know you kind of mentioned like Jesse kind of giving you some tips and tricks about what to do on the field, but was there any like big things to note from Jesse? Any advice he gave to you that you wanted to kind of share was big for you on the day?
Well, the big thing for me, which was the biggest shock when he had spoken to me, was saying that he sees me as I'm only going at 25% of my max. And for me, being a guy who goes at 150% at every point in time, being told I'm only going at 25% was one of those that I really, really had to assess and be like, hey, like, are you sure? But, as the week went on and as I started to understand what he meant, it was more of me reserving myself too much, not being as aggressive. Whereas the system Canada plays is very aggressive. And so throughout the week, I'd say after the first 3 days was me trying to understand the system, figure it out. This is a whole different system. And I'm not used to having, you know, all 11 guys on the pitch working for me. Normally you have one or two guys who are there if you get beat to come across. But no, with Canada, you have all 11 guys who are shifting over. You get beat, somebody's coming in to save you. And just being able to really understand what he meant by that wasn't that I was being lazy. It wasn't any of that. Was that, I need to really understand the moments in which to, be reserved and to be at 110% instead of just being at 110 all the time. Because that's when he was seeing moments of me being, okay, you know what? He's a bit out of position because he's just go, go, go. Whereas if he's doing two jobs at once, you know, the moment the ball comes across, I'm able to step right away and then be at 100% instead of being in between. Okay, now I'm shifting over. Oh, I'm going at 25%. So even in the last few days that I've been in Sweden, we had a friendly game yesterday as well, and I was able to apply that information, and it honestly made my life very easy. And so I really think I've learned so much in the information that I've been given that I'm actually very fortunate to try to apply it into my game now.
I really think it's kind of resonating. It's like picking your spots, right? Like when the moments to really go for it, and just when to be a little more reserved, and just being a little more, presence of mind where you are on the field, right? I think that's also something that you don't always have to go at 110%, like you're kind of saying, right? Be a little more methodical about it. Okay. That's something I could really see that working out there, especially for you again, because you're so explosive on the ball as it is going forward and in the back. So geez, this is I'm that's why I really love to see like when I first heard like with obviously you being part of the roster announcements or for the training camp there and just with other players in CPL. I think this is a great development opportunity. And honestly, you're still at such a young age. It's still gonna develop your game from here. Like honestly, Matteo, the sky's the limit for you. Honestly, the Observer Football Podcast is proud to shout out today's sponsor, Boston Pizza. Did you know that for the month of January, Pasta Tuesday is available every day? So make sure you go fuel up with BP Pasta before your next game. You really can't miss on a deal like this. Thanks again for Boston Pizza for being today's sponsor and for their ongoing support in the soccer community. Now, another thing, Matteo, though, I wanted to mention this talk just before we wrapped up your time with the national team here. Now, was there any moments where you kind of were just like starstruck with the players in the national team there? Was there any players in particular that you were just like, whoa?
Well, like first and foremost, like the day that I had got in, like I think I was like one of the first guys who had gotten in. So I'm just sitting down, I'm having dinner, and then seeing guys that you just watch on TV. You got Kamal Miller, you got Joel Waterman, you got Richie Larea, Jonathan Osorio, even Daniil Henry, a guy who I played against when he played for Halifax. It's still moments like that where I'm like, these are the guys who helped Canada achieve the World Cup. And it's guys that I want to learn from as well. And it was just one of those moments where, I'm just texting my dad, like, yeah, I just had a conversation with Daniil, or I was speaking with Kamal, this and that. And it's cool moments like that where, I'll remember these little memories, because I just had them throughout 10 days who, they had my back. They were really, helping me on and off the pitch. They weren't just being to themselves. They were, speaking with everybody, even the new guys, getting a feel for everybody. And it made me feel very comfortable from the start.
And I love to hear that too. And I think, and again, obviously, you're going to be developing more relationship with these players as time goes on. I'm sure you made a huge impression. Obviously, I was watching that friendly game, and the Red River Rising. I don't know if you're really, I'm sure you're familiar with them. They were cheering you on from Winnipeg here, obviously. And
Yeah,
where do you made, not only did you make your hometown proud, you also made Winnipeg proud. So just wanted to pass that message on to you there. So,
thank you.
just wanted to say again, I know we're still into your young career here, but just before we kind of just touch on, like, leave that aspect there, is there any kind of last minutes you kind of want to say about your first time in the national team? Anything that moments you really want to reflect on before we go into the next topic?
It's incredible to see the depth that Canada has now. Seeing 10 new players, I believe, 10 new faces make debuts, and being guys that I either played with on Team Ontario or just CPL guys I've competed against. It's incredible to see. The future is very bright for Canada soccer, and just once again, it was an honor to put on the badge and share it with all my brothers. So it was great.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's actually really great to see how far the game has come in the last 15 years, specifically like players like yourself. Again, it's just like this country is developing its game here, and it's only going to go so far. And it's honestly, I want us to get to like the semifinal this year. I'm hoping we can. I think we have the talent to do it, but we'll see. I mean, try and open the whole thing here. But again, it's coming up fast here. Now,
Mhm.
Matteo, there's one other aspect I want to go into with here. So, I mean, obviously, we know you're a baller on the pitch. You also score amazing goals, like you've shown us over the years. But what is Matteo like off the pitch? Like, is there anything that, like, any specific hobbies you're into? Like, I know you said you obviously play hockey. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming growing up in Ottawa, were you an Ottawa Senators fan growing up?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I had to be. I feel like if you're from Ottawa, you have to support Ottawa. That's just how it is. You can't bandwagon around the bush like it. But that's the friendly part too, because my girlfriend's from Winnipeg. She's a Jets fan, so it's good. Friendly fire every time. Because I'll always back my team.
well, it's funny enough you say that. You might lose a little bit of respect for me here, but I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
Hey, my dad's from Toronto. That's why. That's why. So,
Okay, see, that's acceptable. That's fine to me, because when we got fans over here who are, they tell me, oh, like I'm a Maple Leafs fan. I'm like, okay, I don't like you. I I just don't.
no, man, that's too funny. I mean, hey, that was one heck of a series though last year in the playoffs, like, especially against the Leafs. And oh, honestly
Yeah.
though, it's crazy. Now, again, like, is there off the pitch? I mean, you're in Sweden now. Like, is there any type of like any if let's say I'm a new person going to Sweden, especially going to the town you play in, is there any like food spots, any like places that you've kind of recently checked out you'd really recommend? I'm just really curious to see what you thought your thoughts are.
So what I would say is the best part about Gothenburg, and in which where I live, is that everything's in one area. The downtown is huge, but it's all in one area. So literally, you could do five different things in the same day in the same area, which is great. I would say an off day normally is me really relaxing. But in the summer, it's beautiful to be out in. The word fika is basically having like a coffee and a little dessert, in the afternoon. Like that's a very common thing here. And so, you go into the city center, go to a cafe, just sit there, relax, enjoy the scenery. It's beautiful over here. There's plenty to do, but I've also, you know, that I feel like I've seen everything 20 times over now, because I'm bored half the time, so I'll just go into the city, but I'll do all the same things. But with some of my teammates, I'll try to just go, sit down, go to a restaurant, whatever it might be. try different things. I want to knock those off instead of going to the same places over and over again. So I'm trying to open up my catalog of foods and things to try. So yeah.
Now, yeah. So, and I think there was one last question here, Matteo. I was wrapping up here. Again, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. But the one thing I was really I just wanted to ask you. I mean, growing up, what player did you idolize growing up? Like, I'm just really kind of curious to see, like, who was your team, who was your player.
So growing up, the first ever team that I had supported was because my coach gave me a keychain. Was Arsenal. And so I just kind of took that with me. I think for like the first like 5 years of me actually like watching soccer or whatever it was. But Messi is my idol. He was a player that, I just loved. And I played as a winger growing up. So, and I was small. So I tried to always replicate myself with him in different ways. But as I grew up and started watching, football more frequently, I was watching Man City. I just loved the way that they were playing. This year, in the last 2 years, I'd say they haven't been playing the best, but I really enjoy the system that they play. They play very fluid football, and it's just very enjoyable to watch. And I think that's something that our coach also tries to correlate when we look at video sessions and whatnot. So I've become more of a fan of just watching games and learning different things from it.
And that's something I think it's always been very important too. Is I mean, not only just for like your player idolize, like who you idolize. For me, like I played at the university level, but I always watched Gigi Buffon games. Like he was my goat, and just kind of seeing it. I always want to ask like players like yourself, like just who you kind of like watch growing up, and just who your idol was. Because I think that a lot of those times, I think even like when I coach youth players here, I think the biggest thing is go watch games, watch what your like even what your favorite players do, because you can obviously take what they're doing on the pitch to your own
Yeah,
game. I think it's something that's very valuable to
exactly.
mention too.
And that's the thing, like, whenever I watch games, I try to mainly watch what the left back does. That's my role, that's my position. And if, you know, there's an incredible moment in the game where he does something great, okay, I can, replay it and be like, oh, how did he manage that? Where was his positioning? So I'm really trying to learn from every moment. And it's great being in Europe now where I get home from training and the games are, at dinner time. So I can have dinner, I can put a game on and I can really just, enjoy my night and continue to learn things. I feel like this is a very short career that I'm in. And so I want to make sure that I maximize it to its potential so that I can be the best that I can be.
Matteo, I just want to say thank you again for being a part here of the Zero Football podcast. This is one I was really excited for. I mean, I've got to see you from the stands at the Princess Alice Stadium, getting to see you on TV in Sweden, also representing Canada at the national team level. What an honor to have you here and just talk about your journey. It's one that, again, I just was so excited for to talk to you. And I'm so honestly just so grateful for you being here. And is there anything you wanted to shout out, anything you have got going on that you want to kind of mention just before we kind of end off here?
No, I just want to say long live Valor. That's all I want to say, to be fair. I'll miss it, but I'm sure the city of Winnipeg is gonna get something great in the future. So
Well, I'm sure that you're missing the minus 45s here in Winnipeg. Obviously, Winnipeg misses you. And like you saw with the national team there and with Red River Rising, especially, we're always here for you. We're going to be your biggest fans in your corner. And honestly, Mateo, sky's the limit for you. And just you're doing the whole country proud.
thank you very much.